In the middle of the Whitmore boardroom in Midtown Manhattan, as a multi-million-dollar contract was being discussed, Alexander paused. He'd opened an email, one name he'd spent months trying to excise from his heart. Patient, Mara Whitmore, ICU, admission, high-risk pregnancy, using his insurance. Veronica gasped. His sister-in-law, the longtime rival for his attention, lifted her chin. Don't tell me you're about to run after that woman. She left you, didn't she? Remember? Veronica's taunting smile cut like glass. Alex looked back at her, eyes hard. She didn't leave. I'm the one who made the mistake. He stood.
Fly the best surgeon now. I want the jet ready in 10 minutes.
But what was Veronica hiding? It was late at night in a quiet rural town in Texas. Only crickets and the faint stir of wind in the trees could be heard. In a small rented room behind a corner convenience store, Mara Whitmore sat at the window, brushing tears from her cheeks. A month earlier, she had walked out of the Whitmore estate. A month, and nothing had ended the ache. Everything she thought was a dream, life had collapsed. She had loved Alexander, Alex, Whitmore with her whole heart, and now he didn't even know where she was. Gently, she touched her belly, which had just begun to swell. They must never find out, she whispered, half fear, half longing. From the moment she felt a heartbeat inside her, it became clear she had to hide, not just from Alex, but especially from Veronica. She knew exactly what kind of woman Veronica was. Deceptive, conscienceless, willing to do anything to bring her down. From the first time they'd met, Mara had felt the woman's cold razor stare, as if she were a threat to every plan Veronica held. Mara chose silence even when it hurt. Leaving the estate felt like severing half her life. But in her mind, the danger Veronica posed far outweighed the pain of walking away from Alex. In that small Texas town, almost no one knew her as the billionaire's wife. People called her Ms. Morial, quiet and polite, renting a room and helping at Ms. Cora's corner store. Each morning she swept the storefront, straightened shelves, and chatted with regulars so they wouldn't notice the sadness in her eyes. But every night, when she was alone, tears flowed. She wondered what Alex was thinking now. Did he know she'd done nothing wrong, or did he still believe Veronica's lies? One night, as she was laying out her thin mat to sleep, a breeze slipped through the window, carrying the smell of a neighbor's simmering stew. She held a little box from beneath her pillow, the last photo of her and Alex from their honeymoon. They were embracing, smiling, like nothing could ever come between them. I don't know if I'll ever see you again, she whispered, wiping tears. Once, a visiting man had almost recognized her, an old employee from Alex's company. She hid behind the shop, holding her breath until he left. After that, she became even more careful. She rarely went out and wore a bonnet or baseball cap to the farmer's market, but it's hard to hide a pregnancy. As days passed, her belly grew, and more people asked if she had a husband. She told them her husband, Sean, worked far away, one repeated lie to keep the questions from digging deeper. In her heart, she wanted to send a letter or a message to Alex, but she was terrified it would fall into the wrong hands, especially Veronica's. If Veronica learned about the baby, she would find a way to take the child. One stormy night, Mara sat on the edge of her bed, listening to the rain hammer the roof. Her stomach growled, but fear clawed harder. Baby, I won't fail you, she whispered, stroking her belly. She had no weapon, but as a mother she would face anyone to keep this child safe. How long could she hide? How long could she keep the secret? She didn't know that in the months to come, something unexpected would draw her and Alex together again, and expose a truth she'd buried for far too long. The air in the Whitmore estate had been cold and heavy that day. Outside, the sky was dim, as if it too braced for the storm inside. In the center of the grand living room, Mara stood trembling, almost unable to breathe under the weight of the words. Across from her was Alex, the man she loved and married, brow furrowed, gaze sharp, documents in his hand. "Mara, I have evidence," he said coolly, laying papers on the table. "Funds withdrawn from the company account. Millions, Mara, and it doesn't stop there. Photos of you with another man." It felt like a knife in Mara's chest. "Alex, that isn't true. I didn't take anything, and there's never been anyone else." Her voice shook and tears slid down her face. From the side, Veronica appeared, dressed to impress, an eyebrow cocked like she'd been waiting for the performance. "Oh? Still won't admit it," she mocked. "Alex, I saw the office CCTV footage myself. She withdrew the cash, and those photos, maybe you should show them to her. Jog her memory." Veronica fanned the pictures across the table. Obvious fabrications stitched together to make it look like Mara was with another man. But to Alex's eyes, they were proof of betrayal and theft. "I don't believe this is fake," he insisted. "I saw everything. If you're innocent, why can't you explain?" Mara stepped forward, one hand pressed to her chest, as if it could keep their bond from snapping. "Alex, please, listen to me. Veronica planned all of this. Enough!" Alex roared, and for the first time turned his back on her. "I don't want to hear anything. Leave, now." The world crushed in on Mara. In a blink, their laughter, their embraces, their promises dissolved. He trusted his sister-in-law over his wife. Veronica leaned close and hissed, perfectly audible. "I told you, you don't belong in this family. You have no idea how long I've planned this. And now, finally, you're done." Two estate security guards entered. Gentle but firm, they took Mara by the arms and guided her toward the door. "Alex, please, listen," she sobbed as the heavy front doors closed. No answer came. Rain poured outside, soaking her as she walked away, her steps heavy as if each one split her heart again. Alex didn't know there was a deeper evil behind it all. Veronica had long coveted him, not out of love but because Alex would inherit the Whitmore empire, and nothing would be allowed to stand in her way, not even her own family. She had envied her husband, Alex's brother, Arthur Whitmore, bitterly. He was the one who should have led the company. Then a mysterious yacht accident took his life, an accident Veronica had planned and orchestrated. With Alex's older brother gone, the path cleared. Her next target, Mara, so she could close in on Alex. On the dark roadside that night, Mara found a bus shelter. Rain still fell, no cars passed. She hugged herself, choking on sobs. "How could you do this to me, Alex? I thought it was us against the world." Across the city, Alex sat alone in his study, a glass of whiskey in hand. Despite his anger and the evidence, a part of his heart pounded with unease he couldn't explain. Every time doubt surfaced, Veronica was there, reminding him of facts she herself had manufactured. So began the night that shattered their lives. Morning brought a heavy silence to the estate. Alex was abroad at a business summit. These should have been lighter days for Mara, but they became the darkest. A door slammed. Before she could rise, Veronica strode in, an envelope in hand and a triumphant smile. "What's this?" She flung the envelope on Mara's bed. Out spilled images from office cameras, composites made to look like Mara opening the company safe and standing with a stranger. Mara grabbed the photos, stunned. "These are fake, Veronica." Her hands shook. Veronica ignored her, stepping closer in dagger-sharp heels. "No one will believe you. When Alex finds out you're stealing, you're finished. And guess who he'll stand with? Me." Mara snapped. "Why are you doing this?" I never did anything to you." Veronica's laugh was mean and musical. "Because you shouldn't be here. You're not the one for Alex. From the day my husband, his brother, died in that yacht accident, I knew I should be beside Alex. Then you arrived, some nobody who stole his attention." The way she said accident chilled Mara. Before she could ask, Veronica grabbed her arm and slammed her against the wall. "Veronica, stop! It hurts!" "That's nothing," the woman hissed, kicking Mara in the ribs. Pain exploded. A hard slap burned her cheek. "Cry all you want. Remember this. You'll never get near Alex again. Once he sees my evidence, you'll walk out of this house with nothing." Mara held her stinging cheek and, even on trembling legs, met her gaze. "One day he'll know the truth, and when that day comes, you'll have nowhere to run." Veronica's pride was pricked. She grew even crueler. "He'll never know. Not happening." The door opened. 2 large bodyguards came in. "Take her outside. Make sure she remembers this day." They seized Mara by both arms. She struggled, but they were too strong. Outside on the cold concrete, they dropped her, then kicked her shin. Shaking with fear and weakness, she lay there. Veronica hovered above, barefoot on the damp grass like a gloating queen surveying a defeated servant. "Leave now, Mara, while I still have mercy. If you don't, a beating may be the least of what you get." Tears welled, but Mara rose slowly, forcing dignity into her posture. "I'm not a thief, Veronica, and when Alex comes back to me, I'll tell him I fought for myself even when he knew nothing." "Keep dreaming, sweetheart," Veronica sneered, turning back inside. Clutching her aching side and swollen cheek, Mara walked away from the place she once called home. Each step pushed her farther, not just from a house, but from every memory of her marriage. Behind a window, Veronica watched, grinning like a victor in a war she started. After driving Mara out, Veronica thought the woman would finally be quiet. But that wasn't enough. As long as Mara lived, she could return and ruin everything. One night in the estate's study, Veronica sat at her laptop with a hired IT specialist. "Make sure all Alex's contacts, personal and business, are cut off from Mara," she ordered. "Ma'am, we've blocked all her numbers and emails on Mr. Whitmore's devices. Even if she changes SIMs, she can't get through." Veronica smirked. "Good. Wipe any trace of their old messages. Everything. I don't want her to have proof he once loved her." She also directed her private investigator to refine the fake evidence. Not only theft, but infidelity. She chose images easy for Alex to believe. Mara with a stranger, contrived chat screenshots, manipulated bank records showing money transfers into Mara's personal account. The more lies, the heavier the reasons for Alex to avoid Mara. But she hadn't planned on one thing. Despite the anger, part of Alex still wanted to hear Mara's voice. One night in his office, he called a man known for finding missing people. "Find her. I don't care what it takes." The man hesitated. "Sir, I thought you didn't want to see her." "I need answers," Alex said, voice low. "Questions only she can answer." Veronica learned of this through a company mole and escalated. She called the same operative. "Double whatever he's paying you," she said coolly. "And every time he asks, you report there's no trace of Mara, as if she vanished." "Ma'am, if Mr. Whitmore, it's an order. If you want to keep your job and your skin, obey." From then on, each report to Alex was the same. "Sir, we've searched everywhere. No records, no sightings. It's like she doesn't exist." With every call, Alex's chest tightened. How had Mara disappeared so fast? Was she running from guilt? Deep down, something resisted closing the door. A nagging sense Veronica's story was wrong. Meanwhile, in her room, Veronica sipped expensive wine and stared at herself in the mirror. "You're gone, Mara," she whispered. and I'll make sure not even your shadow returns." Yet even she knew, people with fighting hearts don't vanish easily. If Mara returned, Veronica was ready for the most frightening step of all, to have her eliminated. Weeks after being forced from the estate, Mara made a last attempt to reach Alex. At a small table in her rented room in a Texas town, she wrote, heart pounding with each word, "Alex, I am not a thief. I could never betray you. Veronica planned everything." She gave the full account, and a confession she had held back. She was pregnant. She sealed the letter and mailed it at the local post office. She also sent an email with the same content, praying at least one would reach him. Days later, at Whitmore Corporation, Veronica held both the letter and the email, brow arched as she read. "Pregnant," she murmured, a cruel smile forming. "So that's your secret. Then you really have to disappear." She wasted no time. She called a fixer known for dirty work. "I need a woman removed from the picture. Discreet. No traces. I'll pay triple." Meanwhile, Mara sensed something off. On her way home from the market one afternoon, she noticed a man in a dark jacket trailing her. At first, she told herself it was a coincidence, but when she stopped at a shop, he paused down the block. She tried to move naturally, but a cold shiver crawled up her neck. She slipped into a narrow alley to shorten the route home and heard footsteps follow. Reaching her door, she darted in, locked it, crept to the window, and peered out. He was still there, waiting. The next day, she decided to move. Using another alias, Marielle Santos, she headed to a different county where no one knew her. She rented a small place far from anyone connected to Veronica. She stopped sending letters and emails. If Veronica had intercepted her messages, worse could happen to her and the baby. She took precautions daily. She never used her real name. At the market, she kept her hair tied and wore loose clothing to hide her pregnancy. Still, some nights she felt eyes on her, shadows at the window, footsteps on the road at dawn. On those nights, she hugged herself and her belly. "They won't reach you, baby. I promise." Veronica didn't stop. Even without a firm lead, she kept paying to watch for any trace. For Veronica, Alex's child, especially Mara's, was a direct threat to her ambition. And the longer Alex stayed away from Mara, the more solid her lies grew in his mind. One evening, sitting outside her rented house and staring at the stars, a voice in Mara's head insisted, "You can't show yourself. You can't send a message. If Veronica gets any hint of you, it's over." She steeled herself to stay quiet, even if it meant never seeing Alex again. Late one quiet night, Mara sat at a worn table in her little house. In front of her, a cheap cell phone and a battered laptop borrowed from a neighbor. She stared at the blank screen as a radical thought took shape. What if I tell the world everything? For weeks she'd been hiding, avoiding, enduring fear. But as her belly grew, so did the dread. If she didn't act, Alex might never meet their child. She closed her eyes and relived every cruelty. Veronica's fists, the false charges, the night security dragged her out of the home she thought would be forever. If I show the world who Veronica really is, someone might believe me. Someone might help. She opened the laptop and began typing a long post, naming everything. The frame-up, the fake evidence, even Veronica's likely hand in Arthur's accident. But as she typed, fear flushed through her. Who would believe me? Every document and photo was stacked in Veronica's favor. To the public, Mara was the unfaithful thief. Without rock-solid proof, going public could paint an even bigger target on her, and on the baby. She shut the laptop, hands trembling, moved to the window, and saw a man in a hat leaning on a streetlight, watching her house. Gooseflesh rose on her arms. She yanked the curtain closed and turned on the lights, trying to steady herself. They still aren't stopping. The next day, she tried reaching anyone from her old life, especially Alex's kind-hearted friend from college, Carla, who had once sided with Mara during family disputes. She dialed the number. The screen flashed. Number blocked. She tried a social platform. Another alert. You cannot send messages to this user. Disappointment wrung her heart. Every possible road to Alex had been stripped away. She knew who had done it. In the weeks that followed, she tightened her guard. She shopped with a neighbor, avoided crowds, stayed away from places with any tie to the Whitmores. Still, she sometimes felt followed. The man at the produce stand, who never bought anything but stayed where she lingered. The woman on the bus, scrutinizing her reflection in the window. Each night she went home, she held her belly tighter. "You're safe with me, no matter what," she whispered. Mara knew she had to be smart. The baby's life mattered more than a fight she couldn't yet win. Deep in her heart, though, she made a promise. "One day, Veronica, everything you've done will come to light." That night, listening to soft rain on the roof, she decided, not today, but one day she would tell the world the whole truth, in a way no one could silence again. In a small Texas town a few hours' drive from Houston, Mara found a fragile peace. No one knew her as the wife of a famous billionaire. People knew Marielle Santos, a quiet woman who shared shifts at Ms. Cora's corner shop. The store was a tiny roadside grocery, half convenience store, half community hub. Every day by 7 a.m., Mara was there, hair neatly tied, blue apron on, ringing up customers, arranging shelves, smiling at regulars. Behind the smile was fear. Fear that some stranger would ask too many questions or claim to be just passing through, while really recognizing her. When a black sedan or a motorcycle with two riders passed, her chest pounded. Sometimes she pretended to sort stock in the back, just to avoid new faces. "Marielle, you okay? You've been back there a while," Ms. Cora asked one day, noticing Mara's sudden disappearances. "Oh yes, ma'am. Just organizing the canned goods," Mara answered with a strained smile. She never told anyone the truth, that people out there wanted her gone. In her small rented room behind the store, just a worn bed, a tiny dresser, and a table, life was simple. No jewelry, no designer bags, things that once were normal at the estate. Now every dollar mattered, every meal required planning. On Saturday nights she saved coins for milk and fruit, not for herself, but for the baby. She would rub her belly and murmur, "My child will not go hungry." Still, even with the simplest life, she couldn't be fully at peace. One afternoon, handing change to a customer, she noticed a man at the corner, dressed in black, cap low, not shopping. She hurried to the door and latched the screen. "Ms. Cora, do you know that man?" she whispered. Ms. Cora peeked out and shook her head. "Never seen him." Eventually the man walked away, but the thump in Mara's chest didn't. He could have been Veronica's man. Each night before bed, Mara knelt and prayed, not only for herself, but for the child she hadn't yet seen. "Lord, give me strength. I don't know how long I can do this, but I won't give up," she sobbed, wiping tears. Sometimes she thought of running farther, but she had no money to start over, and even distance offered no guarantees. A neighbor invited her to the town festival. She declined immediately. Too many eyes, too risky, yet a quiet sadness settled. Once she'd been used to lavish events and gatherings. Now she was a prisoner of her own shadow. Routine set in. Wake up, work, tend the shop, avoid strangers, home, sleep. Day by day, her due date drew near, and she knew she couldn't hide forever, especially when hospitals required identification that could reveal who she was. One hope kept her going, that one day she and her baby could live without fear. For now, anonymity wasn't just a name, it was life or death. It was a humid night when the pain began. At first, it felt like normal late-term aches. Then it tightened, squeezing from inside. She lay sweating on the narrow bed with the window open, stifling her moans so Ms. Cora wouldn't worry. A hard wave ripped through her, radiating to her back. "God, please!" she gasped, nearly rolling off the bed. Ms. Cora burst in with a flashlight. "Marielle, what's happening?" It hurts so much. It feels like the baby's coming." Hands trembling, Ms. Cora shouted to her son, Jay, get the truck, now!" The old pickup rattled down the dark road toward town. Every pothole was another jolt of pain. Mara's heart hammered, fear gnawed that they might not make it. At San Felipe County Hospital's emergency entrance, a nurse met them. "Wheelchair, please. How far along?" 9 months, Ms. Cora answered. The pain just hit hard. They rushed Mara into the ER. Minutes later, the nurse returned, face grave. "She's high risk. We need to admit her now. We'll also need identification and insurance." Mara swallowed. She had no money for private care, and the only working health card left was from her life with Alex, her insurance as his spouse. She pulled the card and ID from her bag. "Here," she whispered, eyes down. The nurse took them and started filling out forms. There was no time for doubt. The baby's life mattered more. As contractions clawed at her, tears fell, not just from pain, but from the knowledge that the hospital's systems could alert Alex, and through him, Veronica. But there was no choice. If hiding meant risking the baby, she'd rather Alex see her name than lose her child. Minutes later, the nurse returned. "Ma'am, one more thing. The primary account holder is automatically notified when the insurance is used, especially in emergencies." Cold water poured through Mara's veins. "You mean, my husband will know it was used?" She nodded, panic rising. If Alex knew, Veronica would know. Another contraction hit. She clutched her belly, nearly blacking out. Nurses rushed her to ICU to monitor her closely. In those moments, there was only one prayer. "Lord, save my baby." She didn't know that, at that very moment, in a sleek Manhattan boardroom, Alex was about to receive the email that would change everything. On the 5th floor of Whitmore Corporation's headquarters, the long table gleamed. Directors and investors lined the sides. At the front, Alex held a remote, voice steady. "If we finalize this deal before the quarter ends, our margin increases by at least 15%. His phone buzzed. He never checked during meetings, but this was a priority notification from his insurance provider. He slipped the phone out and opened the email. The subject froze him. "Urgent. ICU admission. Primary dependent. Patient. Mara Whitmore. Status, admitted ICU. High-risk pregnancy." His eyes widened. For seconds, he couldn't speak. "Mr. Whitmore?" a board member asked. "Is something wrong?" He didn't answer, a name he'd tried not to hear. The woman he'd forced himself to forget out of anger and hurt. Mara, now in ICU, pregnant. Veronica, at the far end, noticed his expression shift. "Alex," she drawled, feigning concern. "Who's in the ICU?" He tucked the phone away, voice controlled. "Nothing that concerns you, Veronica." But he knew the secret wouldn't last, not if she sniffed around. He set the remote down. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have to leave. The meeting is rescheduled. Paul, take over." "But the contract," an executive protested. "Reschedule it," he repeated sharply, glancing at Veronica in warning. As he strode out, his heart raced. Why was he only learning now? Why had there been no word about Mara for so long, and she was pregnant? In the elevator, he called his secretary. "Arrange the company jet. I need to be at San Felipe County Hospital in 2 hours. And call Dr. Ramirez, the best obstetric surgeon we have. Get him there now." "Yes, sir," Mia said, already moving. Alex stared at the email again. He had no idea of Mara's condition, but he knew one thing. He couldn't wait. From somewhere deeper than anger, something else resurfaced: fear, and what had never truly died: love. Veronica remained in the boardroom, pretending calm, while fury boiled. "So you're still alive, Mara," she muttered, "and pregnant. You won't derail my plans again." Outside, Mia intercepted Alex. "Sir, what's going on? They said you walked out." "Tell Dr. Ramirez I need him flown to San Felipe County Hospital immediately. ICU, high-risk pregnancy." "Yes, sir. And the jet?" "Ready in 10 minutes. I don't care who's on it. Cancel everything." As he reached the elevator, Veronica caught up and tapped his shoulder. "So it's true. It's her. Mara. Alive. Pregnant." Alex turned, eyes like ice. "I don't know how you're involved, but stay out of my way." Veronica's grin curled. "You're making a mistake, Alex. She ruined you before. She'll do it again." "She never ruined me," he said, stepping into the elevator. "I did that myself." In the car to the airport, Alex replayed everything: the way he'd left her before a trip, the coldness in his voice, how he chose to believe Veronica. Now guilt felt like a furnace on his back. "Mia, I want hourly updates from the hospital until I get there. Lock down security. No one unauthorized goes near her." "Yes, sir," Mia replied. "Sir, may I ask?" "She's my wife," Alex said softly, "and she's carrying my child." Back in the boardroom, whispers rippled. "Did he just say surgeon, hospital?" an investor murmured. Veronica sat again, gaze distant, boiling with rage and frustration. "So you're back in the picture, Mara, but not for long." She texted furiously, "Find out everything about the ICU admission in San Felipe, now." On the jet, Alex couldn't sit still. He kept rereading the email, as if to make sure it wasn't a dream. Across from him sat Dr. Ramirez, calm and ready. As the engines hummed, images of the last time he'd seen Mara haunted him, 8 months earlier, at the grand staircase of the estate, him clutching Veronica's doctored evidence, Mara in tears, pleading that she loved him and that Veronica had made it all up. "Leave, now," he'd said then, tearing her heart. Approaching Texas, the weight of his mistake pressed harder. If the email was right, he hadn't just judged her wrong, he'd left her to bleed alone, pregnant, high risk. Which was worse, the fear that he'd never see her again, or the dread it was too late for their child. They landed at a small airport near San Felipe. A black SUV waited. Time sprinted. "Step on it," Alex told the driver. "Every second counts." Dr. Ramirez met his eyes. "I'll do everything I can, but if she's critical, we need to be ready for anything." Alex said nothing, fists clenched. At the hospital door, the head nurse hurried to meet them. "Mr. Whitmore, this way. Mrs. Whitmore is in ICU, in active labor, blood pressure unstable, high risk." Alex's pace quickened down the hall. When he saw Mara, pale, sweating, clutching her belly, he froze. Nurses and doctors swarmed, voices crisp with orders. But one sound pierced him, Mara's hoarse plea. "Please save my baby." It split his chest. He moved to her bedside, bending low. "Mara, I'm here," he whispered, forcing calm into a voice that shook. She looked at him, shock and exhaustion in her eyes. "Why are you here?" "Because I'm not leaving you this time," he said, taking her cold hand. Before they could say more, a doctor urged Alex back as they rolled Mara to the operating room. He didn't want to let go, but saving her and the baby came first. The OR doors shut. He bowed his head outside and prayed, "Please, God, give me a chance to make this right." They wheeled her from ICU to the OR. Alex followed to the end of the corridor. The nurses pulled hard. Mara squeezed her eyes, trembling between breaths. Before the door closed, Alex reached and touched her hand. "Mara, I won't leave you this time." Her eyes opened, wet with tears. "I heard that before," she whispered, voice cool with pain. "Then you left." The words sliced him. He wanted to explain, to say he was sorry for everything, but it wasn't the time. The door shut. He stood on the cold hospital floor, counting every sound. The clatter of instruments, the clipped orders, the beeping monitors echoing 2 heartbeats. He sat, head in his hands. "All of this is my fault." A nurse approached with a clipboard. "She's stable for now, but we need to prepare for complications. Her blood pressure is low. There's a risk of excessive bleeding." Alex nodded, palms pressed to his skull, like he could squeeze out the noise. He slid onto a bench and prayed again. "If there's any chance left for me to make amends, this is it. Please, save them. I won't make the same mistake. I won't leave her again." Time stretched. Nurses went in and out with trays and meds. Each time the door opened, Alex's head snapped up, hoping to hear that Mara was safe. Each time it closed, dread swallowed him deeper. He didn't know how long he'd been there when Veronica arrived at the far end of the hall, in a dark green dress, expensive handbag in hand. She approached with a smile on her lips and ice in her eyes. "So she's really here, and pregnant." Alex rose, voice tight with fury. "Veronica, leave. You have no right to be anywhere near Mara." "Right? I saved you from that woman," she sneered. "Now you're running back, to a child that might not even be yours." "I know it's mine," he snapped, "and I won't let you hurt her again." Security, following Alex's standing order, flanked Veronica and guided her away from the critical care area. Once she was gone, he sat again, ears tuned to the OR beyond the door. He didn't know the hour anymore. One promise filled his mind. If they live, everything changes. "Please, give me a second chance," he whispered. Time stalled until a piercing, beautiful sound rang out, a newborn's first cry. Alex jerked upright, tears springing. "That's our baby," he breathed. A nurse stepped out carrying a swaddled bundle, white blanket snug around a tiny face. "Sir, congratulations. It's a healthy baby." Alex couldn't speak. He brushed a trembling palm over the baby's warm brow, feeling softness and life. A tuft of hair, eyes squeezed shut, a thin wail. Joy surged, then the nurse's expression sobered. "Sir, you need to know. Mrs. Whitmore lost a lot of blood." The world closed in. "What do you mean?" "She's critical. The doctors are doing everything they can. She needs an immediate transfusion and prayers." The nurse returned inside. A pediatric nurse took the baby to be monitored. Alex stayed rooted by the OR door, torn between following the child and keeping vigil for Mara. He remained, eyes on the door, like his whole world lay just beyond it. After 30 agonizing minutes, they transferred Mara to ICU. The surgeon met Alex. "We've stabilized her for now," Dr. Ramirez said, "but she's still very weak. The next 24 hours are crucial." Alex entered ICU. Tubes and machines crowded around her. She was pale, sleeping. He sat, took her hand, and whispered, "Mara, it's me. Please fight. Our baby needs you. I need you." She didn't answer, but her hand was warm. He wiped sweat from her brow and spoke again, barely above a breath. "I'm sorry for everything. I'm sorry I didn't believe you. I'm sorry I wasn't there when you needed me most. But now I swear I'm not leaving, no matter what." He stayed all night on a small chair, holding her hand, like it was the only thread left between them. He didn't care about his aching back or bleary eyes. All that mattered was that he would not leave. 3 days passed. Mara moved from the OR to ICU and remained there. Alex never left her side. If he slept at all, it was in brief snatches, upright at the bed's edge, fingers still wrapped around hers, afraid to break the connection. Before dawn, the ICU hummed softly. Machines, monitors. Alex rested with his head dipped, still gripping her hand. Mara's fingers twitched. Her lids were heavy. Like emerging from a long dream of pain and darkness, she slowly opened her eyes and saw Alex's face first, pale, exhausted, etched with worry and love. Tears slipped from her eyes. "Alex," she whispered. He startled awake and looked at her. Seeing her conscious, relief crashed through him. "Thank God you're awake." She stared back, unsure whether to be glad or angry. With every breath, she remembered the words that banished her, the judgments, the weeks of fear and loneliness with a growing child. "Why are you here?" Her voice was thin with doubt. "Because I should never have left you," Alex said, low and heavy. "I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know about the baby. I didn't know the truth." Mara's gaze drifted to the ceiling. "I told you one day you'd learn, but you chose Veronica." Her voice steadied. "Do you know I nearly died from the fear of the people she sent after me?" Alex swallowed, pain sharpening with every word. "Mara, please tell me everything, from the beginning. I want to hear it from you, not anyone else." For the first time since their separation, Mara told him everything. How she was thrown out, how Veronica beat and humiliated her while he was away, how every path to him had been blocked, how Veronica found out about the pregnancy and sent people to have her silenced. As she spoke, Alex's grip on her hand tightened. Tears filled his eyes. "God," he breathed, "if only I'd listened." "But you didn't," Mara said, not angry now, only tired. "I had no choice but to hide, to protect our child." Alex tapped the back of her hand, voice almost pleading. "I'll fix this, Mara. I'll make sure Veronica pays for everything she's done, and I promise, nothing like this will ever happen again." Mara looked at him, uncertainty flickering. Somewhere deep inside, a faint warmth stirred. Something fear and betrayal had once extinguished. Now, because of the way he held her, it began to glow again. There were no guarantees, but both of them knew an old wound had taken its first step toward healing. Morning light crept into Mara's private room. Even with some strength returning, she felt the drag of surgery and blood loss. Greater than the physical pain was the fear of losing her child. Down the hall, Alex carried a small basket, a blanket and a bottle. Inside, their baby, the proof of their love. As he walked toward her room, the baby's little face mirrored Mara's features, the curve of her mouth, the gentle nose. He opened the door. Mara turned. For the first time, she saw Alex enter carrying their child. "Mara," he said softly, tender, "there's someone I want you to meet." He placed the baby carefully in her arms. The room fell silent, the only sound the tiny noises of a newborn. Time stopped as Mara finally saw her child. She hugged the baby close, fighting the rush of tears. "My baby. At last." Alex stood at the bedside, joy and ache tangling in his chest. Joy that they were together, pain for the time he'd lost, the months he hadn't seen her carry their child, the first kicks he hadn't felt. "Mara," he said carefully, "I don't know how to repay you for everything you endured alone. But now, I promise, no one will take you from me again." Mara's tone was still cool, though tears shone. "How do I know that's true, Alex? What happens when we go back to New York and you disappear again? What if something happens to our child?" He bowed his head. "No one will touch you, Mara. I'm not blind anymore. I know what Veronica did, and I'll make sure she answers for it. I won't let you vanish from my life again." Mara looked at the sleeping baby. Beneath the chill of fear, a strange warmth flowed, drawn from Alex's presence and willingness to stand guard. "For our child," she murmured, "I'll give you a chance, but if you hurt us again, we won't come back." Alex nodded, and for the first time in a long while, smiled with hope. "For our child, I'll do everything." From the moment Mara moved to a private room, Alex never left. Each day he arrived with warm food from their old favorite restaurant, fresh lilies, her favorite, and little toys for the baby. "Good morning," he'd say, offering soup. "For you and for our little one." Mara accepted, still cool. "Thank you." Yet she sensed something else, a change in Alex, like he was holding back something big. While he watched over her, Alex also launched a quiet investigation into Veronica. He hired private investigators and contacted former employees who had once been too scared to speak. In a private condo meeting, the lead investigator slid a thick folder across the table and opened a laptop. "Sir, this isn't only fraud and falsified records. We have new evidence about your brother Arthur's yacht accident." Alex went cold. "Go on." The investigator pressed play. Marina surveillance footage from 3 years ago showed Veronica as the last person to speak with Arthur before his yacht departed. Photos followed. Mechanics who confessed Veronica paid them to remove safety components from the engine. "There's also a sworn affidavit from your former driver," the investigator added. "She ordered him to ensure you weren't on board, so only Arthur would be at risk." Alex's hands clenched. "She's not walking away this time." The next day, Alex confronted Veronica at a charity gala. Near the stage, he stood with 2 police officers, witnesses, and the investigator. Veronica spotted him and smirked. "Missed me? Isn't it better without that woman?" Alex stepped forward and set the folder on a table. "This ends now, Veronica, and this time the law will finish it." An officer drew near. "Ms. Veronica Hale Whitmore, you're under arrest for multiple counts of fraud, falsification of documents, attempted murder, and conspiracy in the death of Arthur Whitmore." The room erupted. Guests covered their mouths. Whispers surged. "What? This is absurd!" Veronica shrieked. A former bodyguard stepped up with his affidavit. "Ma'am, we'll testify. You ordered us to beat and throw out Mrs. Whitmore. You also planned the yacht sabotage." Veronica's face shook, drained of color. "Alex, you can't do this to me." "You did it to yourself," he said, as cameras flashed and police led her out. That night, Alex returned to the hospital. Mara sat on the bed with their baby. "She's gone," he said softly. "Not just for what she did to you, but for what she did to Arthur. Justice has finally been served." Mara stared. "Arthur too?" Alex nodded. "I've carried that weight for years, but now nothing stands in our way. You're safe. We're safe." She studied him, then exhaled. "You did this? For us?" "For our family," he said. "And I promise, Mara, I won't let you go." For the first time since they'd reunited, a small, hopeful smile touched her lips. Days after Veronica's arrest, Alex convened a special meeting of the Whitmore family and the board of directors in the main conference hall, the same room where he'd last seen Mara before driving her out. This time, everything was different. Directors, family members, and selected press filled the long table. Alex, in a navy suit, stood steady at the front. To his right stood Mara, in an elegant white dress, cradling their swaddled baby. Alex stepped to the podium. The room hushed. "Thank you for coming. Today we're not discussing contracts or margins. We're here for truth, and to correct a wrong that has brought my family great pain." Some murmured, glancing at Mara. Alex drew a breath. "A year ago, I believed lies, that my wife stole from me and was unfaithful. Today, with evidence and testimony, I know the truth. All of it was orchestrated by Veronica Hale Whitmore. A wave of shock rolled through the room. Alex didn't flinch. Veronica is in jail, charged with fraud, falsifying documents, and attempting to harm my wife and child. He went to Mara and helped her stand. Now I want to introduce my wife, Mara Whitmore, the mother of my heir. The room went still, then burst into applause. Some people came forward to apologize to Mara for believing the worst. Alex stood beside her, making it clear no one would pull her away again. For the first time in a long while, Mara felt safe, not only because of the law, but because of Alex's resolve. That afternoon was clear and calm at the Whitmore private airstrip. With a clean hint of ocean air, their departure neared. Mara stood by the jet stairs, holding their sleeping baby. Alex was behind her, smiling like he could finally breathe. After so long waiting and fighting, "I'll take him," Alex said, gently lifting the infant and settling him into the bassinet on board. "Ready?" he asked, eyes warm with hope that she was ready to begin again. Mara took a slow breath. "I don't know if I'm ready for everything, but I'm ready to try." Inside, Alex sat beside her, hand in hers. The warmth between their palms felt like a seam closing over old wounds. Outside, the jet rolled forward, lifting them away from so much pain. As the plane climbed, Mara looked out the window, the city below shrinking to a scatter of lights and buildings, like the hard memories evaporating. Alex leaned close. "Mara, I know I can't erase the past, but from this moment on, I promise you'll never face anything alone again." She held his gaze. Doubt still flickered, but behind it a growing light of trust returned. "I'm holding you to that, Alex." He smiled and squeezed her hand. "And I'm holding you. Forever." They landed at a private resort in the Florida Keys, greeted by a salty breeze and glittering water. On white sand, a cabana and a table were set with food. They walked the beach together, Alex cradling the baby in one arm and holding Mara's hand with the other. Their footprints in the sand felt like symbols of a new path. Together, no one left behind. That night on the villa veranda, their child sleeping in the bassinet inside, they sat quietly with coffee. Silence no longer meant fear or distance. It was the quiet of two people finding home again in each other. "Mara," Alex said softly. "This time, I will never let go." She smiled. For the first time since everything began, she let her heart fall again for the man before her. Watching him look at her like she was the only woman in the world, Mara realized that even a past full of scars could give way to something beautiful when a second chance was given, for family and for love. Under a sky bright with stars, a new chapter began. No longer as two people divided by lies, but as a married pair bound again by truth, trust, and a love that would not let go.